There you are. I don't know who's watching, but there you are. Today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic is on the concept of standardization. And this concept reminds me of just the immense practicality of this philosophy of Vedanta. There are so many principles that are practical, pragmatic in our daily lives that can make a difference to you 30 minutes after hearing this, after reflecting on a concept early in the morning with traffic on the way to work, with an email that's on the precipice of destroying your mental peace, with an interaction with a spouse, a friend, coworker. It's so damn practical. And it's in high contrast, as we've touched on in previous episodes, it's in high contrast to what we conventionally think of when we think of the term philosophy, where in the West, it's largely been this academic, highfalutin pursuit, this intellectualism, this thing that is irrelevant to our daily lives. That's not what Vedanta is. Aldous Huxley called it the perennial philosophy because it's the philosophy that shows up in nearly all other philosophies. You look at the Socratic allegory of the cave, and Socrates was heavily influenced by Pythagoras, who was rumored to have spent a lot of time in the Indus Valley. So there's either a direct connection there, or as Carl Jung put it, who is also a student of Vedanta, he also talked about it as a collective unconscious, that maybe it sits beneath experience. When someone thinks about the reality versus the shadows on the cave in Socrates' allegory of the cave, or when they think of something like standardization from the profound and the deep, meaningful, and kind of life-changing reflections of something like the allegory of the cave. If you've never spent real time thinking about that allegory that you may have come across when we were in 8th grade, that concept that we're all staring at shadows on the wall, convinced it's real, until one person goes up, leaves the cave, and sees light for the first time. The depth of that, the profundity of that concept, which is hand in glove into the Upanishads, which predate Socrates by thousands of years in some cases. That profundity, that is a reflection for another time. Because I actually want to talk about Aldous Huxley's observation that is the perennial philosophy, and he also at times called it the practical philosophy, because of its practical applications in the here and now, beyond the deep end of the pool, the super profound, the perspective shifting. On that end of the spectrum, I just want to touch on the really pragmatic, practical perspective shifting in the here and now, in your daily life, the second that you might hear this. And that is the standardization concept, where you standardize your life. This is an age-old concept that now finds its way into popular culture with things like Steve Jobs wearing one thing each day. You'll see in many episodes I'm predominantly wearing more or less the same thing, given the weather. I might change it up a little bit. But that standardization, waking up same time each morning, having a standard set of options for breakfast or lunch, that standardization, it also reminds me of a great essay I once read on how to avoid being stupid. Swami talks a lot about standardization, to remove unnecessary decisions so that you can have thought space for what is important. Changing your clothes every day. You don't have to go super austere into one thing each day. But it's no coincidence that Steve Jobs also had a Japanese guru and studied Eastern philosophy daily. You don't have to go to that extreme, but having 4 or 5 outfits that you can interchange. That's profound. Even if it's a practical daily life recommendation, it's profound in the amount of thought space it opens up in terms of not having unnecessary decisions. Modern psychology is scratching on the surface of the fact that we have finite decision bandwidth each day. And we build up decision fatigue the more decisions that we burden ourselves with. So standardization is a chance to give your mind a break, to give yourself some thought space, to know exactly what you're going to wear or what workout and what day do you do those workouts on so that you're not constantly waffling. Should I go work out today? What should I do in the workout? The standardization in one's life, this age-old philosophical concept, the practicality is not just around improving and increasing our thought space for all of the variables that can't be standardized, that need our attention during the course of our daily lives. The other benefit that you get out of this is that it allows you to build a natural rhythm. The best advice I ever received, whenever I'm on podcasts, whenever I'm speaking in front of a group, the question of what's the best advice I ever got comes up frequently. The best advice I ever got in my 20s was from a sleep doctor. She told me to wake up every morning at the exact same time, and it'll set your 24-hour circadian rhythm. I thought circadian rhythms had to do with your sleep while you're conked out during those 8 hours of sleep at night, but we actually have a 24-hour circadian rhythm. And waking up at 6 a.m., then 9 a.m., then 11, then 8:20, that throws your body off. Your body has no idea when to release which hormones at what time. When to release the cortisol to help wake you up, when to release the melatonin to help put you to sleep. These things are wildly off. You're working against nature when you have no rhythm, when you have no standardization. So it's not just freeing up thought space. It's also working within the natural rhythms that we all have a chance to tap into when it comes to standardization. The third benefit of this very practical approach to daily life within standardization, beyond thought space, beyond tapping into these natural rhythms, is the fact that it does allow us to have that focus, that energy, that clarity to then think about these profound concepts. No matter how fascinated and sincere one might be about the profound or the practical applications of a philosophy in one's life, if they're working on 2 hours of sleep a night, nature's going to do its thing and throw their life around like a rag doll. So this philosophy makes space for these foundational aspects of our daily life that then give us the chance and the structure to contemplate the profound, the clarity and discernment when it comes to these deeper philosophical concepts. But that space in these foundational practical aspects, like sleep, this philosophy even talks about keeping your limbs firm, stresses an importance on keeping the body fit so that it's not a distraction from perhaps these higher principles that the Daily Vedantic or any number of Vedantic texts will talk about. The practical aspects of this philosophy with a concept like standardization is not just complementary, it's quite necessary to give us that clarity, that capacity to take a sincere look at the deeper and perhaps more profound aspects of the very same philosophy. Again, one is not more important than the other. One is actually foundational and necessary for the other. If you want to have the capability to ask the question, are these just shadows on the wall? And is there more to reality? If you want to have the capacity to ask such a question that comes from foundational, practical aspects of living, like standardization. That's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you tomorrow.